Over the past 5 years, I have hiked to some of the wildest and most remote locations in the American West. Forgotten canyons, hidden mining trails, ghost towns carved into the side of mountains. And a question that I get asked a lot is, what is the best hike that you've ever been on? And that is the question that we are going to answer in this video while I'm up here, hiking Mount Whitney, the tallest peak in the lower 48. Started off, before I get into the rankings, I want to talk about how I'm going to rank them, because best can be very subjective. This is a list that's not coming from the internet, it's not coming from trail reviews, it is coming from my experience living right over there in the abandoned mining town of Cerro Gordo, just across the valley. And things that I prioritize in hikes is, number one, sense of adventure. I want it to feel like you're out there, that you're really trail finding, that there's no maps, that you're discovering something new for the first time in a very long time. That's very important for me, and you'll see from the hikes that I've taken so far that it's top of the list. Next is beauty. I mean, look around. This is a pretty beautiful area, and that's a very big part of any ranking system. After that, we have history. I want it to have some type of historical significance. You know, it always feels beautiful if you're hiking in someone else's footsteps. You know, imagine yourself hiking towards some lost history from 100 and 150 years ago. That's number three. And finally is difficulty. I love a very difficult hike, and if you've seen my videos before, you'll know that. So I like a slog, you know, I like scrambling up scree. I like just barely making it to where I'm going, just really push to see what I'm made of. And so those are the criteria, and by the time we get to the peak of Mount Whitney, just over there, I will have counted down the top 8 hikes that I've ever done. The sun is rising. Let's start this list. Coming in at number 7 is truly one of my favorite hikes anywhere. It is a hike to a one-of-a-kind mine, and along the way you come to a beautifully preserved ghost town. This hike is the Champion Sparkplug Mine just outside of Bishop, California. The Champion Sparkplug Mine was established in 1917 and was active into the 1940s, and the whole hike is just packed with history. As you casually climb through Pinyon and Jeffrey Pines, you first get to something known as Lower Camp, which is a beautifully preserved mining camp tucked away at about 7,500 feet in elevation. It would seem at this point we should look around, and what better place to start than this, which is a museum put together by the volunteers that have been keeping this place intact. If you look around, you can tell it's in very good shape. There are a lot of buildings that obviously had a lot of maintenance over the years to keep them like this. Wow, I love this. So, this mine was here to make a better engine from the Champion Sparkplug Company. And the mineral that they're going after was this, andalusite. And sometimes it can be greenish, sometimes it can be kind of this light blue. I love this museum. They've done such a good job. The Champion Sparkplug Mine is a historical landmark. In 1919, the discovery of andalusite at this mine led to the commercialization and development of advanced ceramic spark plug insulators for the internal combustion engines and the growth of the world's transportation industry. Well. Tucked way up here, we have found the upper camp. Back in the day, there's tons of buildings here, but in 1987, a fire took down most of them, but they were able to save
the manager's cabin, which is up there. And you can see they stretched power cords way up here. You got a little cabin falling in here. And then look at all these little holes they were just punching into. Punch, punch, punch. This, if you had a Champion spark plug in the 1920s, 1940s, is where the material for the insulator came from. That is so cool. Oh, I'm stoked.
Upper Camp, unfortunately, lost many buildings to a fire, and the ones that remain are really starting to show the weight of history. So if you're going to make this hike, I would make it soon before the rest of them fall down. But the views from Upper Camp are absolutely amazing. All right, into the manager's cabin. But look at that view out that window. You can see the hillside pushing in the whole building. Again, would have been a really tough life, but your view would be that. You see the valley below you. You see the mine itself, which just looks like Swiss cheese carved into the mountainside. You can see where they were drilling. Maybe they're thinking about going this way a little bit. You can see the drill holes already. So typically when they're doing dynamite blast, they would drill into the face like this, and they would detonate the charges in different orders, like boom, 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 to make it go how they wanted to. And you can see they were drilling here too. Then they might have thought, hey, that's not enough clearance to the outside. Probably a bad idea. Almost, it feels kind of like natural caves mixed with mining. It's stunning. Overall, I'd rate it as sense of adventure, 6. Historical significance, 6. Beauty, 6. Difficulty, 5, for a total score of 23. Champion is steep, but it's pretty straightforward. That's going to change as this list goes on. So let's hike a little closer to Whitney, keep getting into this list. Six on the list is the first hike that I felt was truly trying to kill me. It is a hike that I made the poor decision to do when it was 120 degrees outside, and that is the Saline Valley Salt Tram hike. The Salt Tram is just a feat of modern engineering that was constructed in 1911 to bring salt out of Saline Valley up and over a mountain range into Owens Valley. It is a beautiful, historic, amazing structure, and I felt like I could hike the entirety of it, even though I never heard of anybody hiking it all in one go. The Salt Tram hike is not a hike for most people. It starts out at 8,700 feet in the Inyos, and it ends in Death Valley at about 1,000 feet. In between, there is 7 miles of steep cliffs, dry waterfalls, rattlesnakes, and about a dozen other things that are trying to kill you. Look at this. Got an old something. I guess maybe that's how they brought the salt. So I'm not even totally sure how they brought the salt. That would make sense, so it was covered so they didn't lose any on the way up. So this obviously would go on this cable system. This would take it down or up wherever they're trying to go. And that's interesting. There's another one over here. So like at Cerro Gordo, there wasn't these tops because I guess the galena was so heavy that it wasn't going to fall out. Then maybe salt, because it's a little bit lighter. Yeah, look, that's the same one. They're almost like barrels that have a lid on them. How do they do this? It's ridiculous, really. About halfway through, you reach one of the best preserved pieces of desert history that I've ever seen. It's a transfer station that just seems frozen in time. Made it to this one that was in the distance on the hill, and it's incredible the amount of stuff that's still here. So look at the tracks. That was the track that the buckets will come in on. Even the little pulleys are still there, cable. You know, up here you got, of course, the Prince Albert, bunch of pickaxe heads, homemade coffee pot maybe. So, oh wow, look at that.
An old pocket watch. Guy probably keeping time out here looking up like, when do I get to go home? This is incredible. It's just kind of left here.
I saw a note in the logbook, the last entry that was written over 10 years ago, that said that they had used 300 feet of rope to climb out of the canyon, which was a problem because I didn't have rope, which I was about to see why.
So the tramway's up there. I'm still down in the wash. I've abandoned following the tramway. I do have to be conscious of my water. And so at this point, my main goal is just getting out of here, to be honest. I think I've seen 20, 25 of the tramway stations. So it seems like more than enough. And given the fact that I'm in Death Valley with no communication, with limited water, I'm not taking any more chances. I am ready to GTFO, so to speak.
As you descend, you drop into slot canyons, these tight, twisting drainages with sheer walls on either side. And inside those canyons are dry waterfalls, these chutes that just show how violently the water moves through during the storms.
I'm now down in the wash below the trail and the bird that's still circling me, which seems very rude. And so far there's no waterfall, which is my great fear now.
Sliding down dry waterfalls is easy, that's no problem. But climbing back up is nearly impossible.
Ooh, starting to get... Well, I kind of committed now, coming down that from up there, so man, I really hope this wash is the way out. Getting a bit nervous because my drone's dead now. I can't use it for scouting. I almost lost it right there. This camera's even running low.
And eventually, you reach the one that is too big to slide down. And in my case, I reached the big one when I was exhausted and I thought I was stuck. But luckily, after some planning and some patience, I managed to climb back up and around a cliff to bypass a 100-foot drop. On the other side, I saw my friend Tim, who had cold drinks, and honestly, that might have saved my life.
Thank you, Tim.
I got here as fast as I could.
Yeah.
And that was half a mile an hour.
I know. I think I'm going 1/3 mile an hour.
And when we get to my house, it's tacos.
Tacos! Look, there's the tram. Fuck the tram.
And so if you decide to do this hike, you absolutely have to have somebody meet you at the end. Now, I'd rate it something like this. Sense of adventure, 7. Historical significance, 7.5. Beauty, 7. Difficulty, 7.5. For a total score of 29. To be honest, I'm ranking the Salt Tram probably lower than I should, just as a deterrent for people to not do it. It is a very dangerous hike. It is very grueling and is one that truly almost took my life, that I outlined in detail in my book, Ghost Town Living. And so it might be higher than that, but for our purposes, Saline Valley Salt Tram is number 6. We're gonna keep sprinting around this corner and see what's next. Number 5 isn't a famous hike. It's not a hike known because of the geography. It's not a hike known because of what was built there. It's known because of what crashed there. And that is a top secret CIA airplane that crashed in Death Valley National Park during the Cold War. On a training mission in 1952, a plane lost its engine and slammed into the mountains of Death Valley. It crashed so far from anything that recovery wasn't worth it. And the hike itself to get there climbs from about 5,000 feet up to 7,300 feet, and the terrain plays tricks on you. You think you're almost there, only for another rock wall to rise in front of you.
We're about 3 or 4 hours in, and right over there, can you see it? shining on the hillside. Man, that thing is just perched right there on the cliff. Oh, man, we are so in the middle of nowhere, and to see that is just stunning.
It's still far away, so you still have to go up to the peak, up to Town Pass at about 7,300 feet, and begin your descent.
That is so cool. It's in such a steep location. You can also see after being out here why the Air Force decided to leave this here. And so much of this plane is here. I can tell even from some photos I've seen online that pieces are missing. You know, when I was researching this plane, I even saw an eBay listing for the VIN plate off of this. Oh! Me just quietly whispering and then fell. But I was saying, I saw the VIN plate for this plane on eBay, and I don't know the legalities of that, but I feel some sort of way about that, where either it's trash or it's treasure. Over here, where the sun isn't hitting all day, you still see some of the lettering on the plane. You know, these were known to spaciously fit up to 12 passengers as well as their cargo. We're back in here, taking a look around. Mother Nature has not gotten to the coloration, so you can still see kind of the military green. You can see above probably where it was colliding into the ridge as it was coming down. You see the side that just got shredded coming into the landing. There's another one of what was down below, so maybe that is the propeller. See, even still see the scrapes like they were yesterday. Turn around, get a view of the wing, and just how precariously that it's perched up here on this cliff. This is just such a cool thing to see and sit in. Imagine somebody was sitting in this 70 years ago. Never knew they were gonna have quite a story to tell by the end of the night. They sure did.
Overall, the hike is a fairly straightforward hike, but it's one that just invites you to get into the mindset of the era, the fear, the experimentations, the leaps in technologies. And so for me, this rating was sense of adventure 6, historical significance 6, beauty 5, difficulty 5, for a total of 22. One of my favorite parts about any hike is diving down rabbit holes and learning new things. And as this list goes on, there's going to be even deeper and wilder history, including one of my favorite history stories ever that's in the next one. And number 4 is a town truly out of the Wild West. This is a town that was established by bandits who were on the run, who colluded with congressmen. It has all of the lore that you would want in an old western town. And the hike in isn't too bad. You have to navigate a couple small waterfalls, but once you get up there, Panamint City is absolutely beautiful. Back in the 1870s, Panamint City was known as the roughest and toughest mining camp in Death Valley. And around 1874, when this town was at its peak, it was home to over 2,000 people. And the trail itself starts off and it's very well defined. You follow a canyon lined with reeds and towering rock walls, and a little stream that's gonna soak your shoes about a half mile in. And a few miles in, you spot it. I just got my first glimpse, the giant smokestack for the smelter.
You can see way in the distance there, the beginning of the stack. Quite flat right here, and the wash has gotten huge. So it's like a plain or a meadow almost. And we have arrived at Panamint City Hilton, as it's called. Look at the scenery around here. It's just stunning.
There's several cabins still standing, all really well preserved and maintained by a dedicated group of volunteers to keep the town alive.
When you walk in, you got the wood burning stove, 2 cots, great condition. If you were to go through here, there's a bed, actually quite comfortable. So you have that. There's a bathroom over here that's kind of all out of order. Probably, I mean, definitely due to no running water and such, but can't be the view out of that bathroom. That might rival our outhouse view at the top of Cerro Gordo. I don't know. This is what's known as the Hilton here, and I can see why. It's really well done. It's really well maintained. And it's just staggering to imagine how much machinery they hauled into this remote canyon. Rock sorters, refining equipment, lumbers, metalwork, all of it dragged up these slopes by hand, mule, and sheer will. And then here must have been their last go at it. You know, this is all modern machinery. And I wonder, the guy who built this, got all this up here, was like, you know what? I know that this mining camp has been tapped for years, but there's still more in these hills. I'm gonna give it another run. It's something that I relate to, you know. I'm not mining again at Cerro Gordo, but I definitely feel there's more there that should come to life. And it's interesting looking around now, you know. I wonder what happened to the guy that imagined up all this, you know. Did he stay here till it was too late? Did he get out and try somewhere else? Did he ever turn a profit? And now it's just these somewhat eerie memories of the past. And look at this. This is what I believe they call the castle. Wow, this one is fancy. All sorts of info over here as well. Wow. History of Panamint City, Death Valley Scotty. So this is a note from the guy that built the castle, or rebuilt it. He says, for those that you would ask why did I work on this castle? Just read the log cover to cover and look at the photo of my son and I. Then you'll understand. Enjoy. Rob Tyler. P.S. Miss you, son. Son Brett, too, who passed away because of a blood clot. It seemed like the two of them would come up here a lot and we worked on this for a very long time. Keep the memory of your son alive, you know? As far as ghost towns that you can explore but still feel like an adventure to get there, Panamint City gives you that remote feel without too much effort. So for me, I would rate it as sense of adventure 6, historical significance 8, beauty 6, difficulty 5, for a total score of 25. The Panamint City hike I can't recommend higher. It's a hike that stayed with me for months afterwards. But these final 3, the top 3, those stayed with me for years. So we're going to hike into a little bit of sun and get into the top 3 best hikes that I've ever done. Some hikes are hard because they're long, some hikes are hard because they're steep, and some hikes are hard because no human was ever designed to go there. And at number 3 on our list is a hike that leads you into a canyon that was once described as to be so nearly vertical as to be inaccessible to anything without wings. It is, mile for mile, the hardest hike I've ever been on, possibly the hardest hike in the world, and that is retracing the Beekeeper of McElvoy Canyon steps, Marion Howard, up and over a mountain range, into a canyon, and down 11 waterfalls. It completely kicked my ass, but it's an amazing experience.
Starting in the early 1960s, Marion walked away from a normal life and disappeared into one of the most inhospitable canyons anywhere in the desert. And he kept bees. I wanted to understand why a man would retreat so far from society for reasons that nobody knew. I felt like understanding his footsteps would better understand my own. Along the way, you see signs of Marion, the tiny clues about the sacrifices he made to live where he did. Well, we got to one of the mines that was on the beginning trail for Howard, and see, there's some old shoes. I was told that he would hide out in mine shafts along his route, some of which he would develop into more serious accommodation, but this one appears maybe just be hiding out from the weather. But look at that, he has a stove in here, you know, books, newspapers.
Yeah, you said you were in there from what, the 60s up to about 80?
Yeah, I was in there mostly in the winter. I thought I was going to spend all summer there. You know, it got so hot. Hot sun would strike that bare ground and just come up in my face. Kind of dazzled.
"20 hours of difficult hiking later, I finally reached Marion's main camp. The mine shaft that's still filled with his tools, his clothes, everything just laid out as if he might return tomorrow." This is what set me on the whole adventure. This is another mine shaft that we're 20 hours hiking in now. Hard hiking. And this is where Marion lived. In Awake magazine, which is I believe a Jehovah's Witness magazine, which might explain something about him being out here too. Here's a beekeeper net.
Well, there's a tunnel, and I lived in that tunnel because you didn't have to worry about the snow.
Honeycomb on the honeycomb things. That's so cool. He just used what he could. This was his house. This was his clothes. In the one article about him by Wendell Moyer, they talk about his canvas sack that he would throw over his shoulder. And this is that canvas sack. Still looking pretty good. Some straw he brought from down by the river. And this was it. This is where he lived for years. A smoker for the bees. Tools. Imagine getting any of this stuff out here. You saw how hard it was for me to get here. Taking pickaxes, saws. I'm going to sit here and just think. Ahead, the canyon narrows into this thick corridor of willow that has grown together into this mesh that you can't even really push through. Oh, God. This sucks so bad. I'll be honest. This is by far the most miserable thing I've ever done in my life. By like a count of 1,000. You're standing on roots, not even on the ground, so you're just falling through the roots, scraping yourself, getting beat to death, and that's when the waterfalls start. Oh, nightmare. I lost my GoPro earlier, now I lost my drone that just caught me going up this. It took a life of its own and took off somewhere in this heavy thicket. I'm never gonna find it. This has been an absolute nightmare. I was really hoping to at least, you know, I had the drone shot, it gave me a little bit moment of hope, like, oh, at least I'll have this cool shot of me canyoneering in the canyon, and then my pants, that's what they look like. Everything's soaked, my sleeping bag's soaked, pants are soaked. Sometimes it's like that. We'll lick them tomorrow. And eventually, you emerge into the exposed Saline Valley, where the last of Marion's huts is. And in that blistering 100-degree heat, it's such a contrast to the icy waterfalls, and you just feel thoroughly beat.
Now, did you build that cabin over a period of years, or was it just a project that you started and worked on until you finished it?
Well, I just Did a little at a time.
A little at a time?
Yeah.
Did you have a wood burning stove in that cabin?
There was, but the back side of it burned out, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't recommend this hike to anyone. It's difficult to the point of being fatal if you're not prepared. But for me, given where I live and kind of the connection I felt to Mary and Howard, I ranked this very high. The sense of adventure, 10. Historical significance, 7. Beauty, 8. Difficulty, 10. For a total score of 35. This is a walk in the park compared to the Beekeeper Trail, but these final two weren't so easy. So let's finally find the sun I keep talking about and talk about those two. All right, we are officially above 14,000 feet in elevation. So I'm on a 14er. Home stretches in front of me, sun is out, and I'm feeling good. I'm feeling powerful. I'm feeling like this has been pretty easy. And powering this hike, maybe a reason I feel so good, like has powered every one of the hikes that you've seen so far, is Element. Element is an electrolyte mix that's just sodium, potassium, magnesium. There's no sugar or any of the other weird stuff. All you gotta do is carry on this really light thing, pop it open, throw it into your water bottle, shake it up, and you're good to go. It prevents cramps, it prevents those dehydration headaches, keeps you going on long hikes like this, or even just days you're sweating a lot playing sports or something. And I love Element. I bring it with me everywhere. Brought it on with me with all the hikes you've seen so far. And if you want to try it out, they're giving away an 8 sample pack for free with any purchase. All you have to do is go to drinkelement.com, so drinkelement.com/Brent, and they'll give that to you. I'm going to hydrate up, then we're going to get into the top 2 hikes that I've ever done. There's a moment in every hike where you feel alone. Kind of that weight of distance hits you and you realize that there's nobody around you for a long ways. And this next hike, number 2, is probably the most alone that I've ever felt in my life. It's a hike that has 25,000 feet of elevation gain and 25,000 feet of elevation loss as you climb in and out of canyons. It was a 3-day hike where I didn't see a single soul, and at the bottom of each of these canyons is an old mining camp from the 1800s. It's an absolutely amazing hike, a series of trails actually put together by a guy named Wendell Moyer, the Lonesome Miners Trail. The trail is one that's a loose chain of 100-year-old mining paths that weave in and out of 5 enormous canyons. At the bottom of every one of these canyons is a mining camp left behind more than a century ago. But it's a hike that beats you up right from the start. The first 5 miles climb more than 6,000 vertical feet to reach the first ridge line. I'm up near 6,000 feet now, so we're climbing pretty steadily. I just love the view of clouds racing across the valley. Well, I guess not clouds, I like the shadows of the clouds racing across the valley. So do I like the clouds or do I like the shadows? Good thing I got a long hike ahead of me to think about questions like that. If you look at the old reports, there's talks of dead miners along the route. There's winter expeditions that nearly killed dozens more. But people kept coming back, and that is because they pulled nearly 38,000 ounces of gold from these camps, which is worth over $150 million today. And at the bottom of every canyon is your lifeline, a spring where you can refill the water to make the next brutal climb. So you can see below me
the valley we're headed. And you can see along the bottom of the canyon the bright green trees, which must be where the water is. And I believe that the water's up that canyon a little bit. And it is steep. And all I keep thinking about when I'm looking at it is we have to go down there, but then we have to climb back up this whole peak and then drop back down to the next valley. I'm getting closer to the canyon floor, and I think there's something about human nature where we can just sense water. I don't know the exact word for it, but I could feel it. I can hear it now, and my body's just a little more at ease. It's something that humans just love about looking at or being around water.
And halfway through this is where you first encounter the Beekeeper mine shaft, one of Marion Howard's hidden camps. But on this specific hike, you won't have to go through all of the waterfalls. Instead, you'll have to climb a steep shale cliff to the next camp, which is the Kenot Mine Complex, which is another mining camp with all sorts of artifacts from the 1800s, but also stuff from the 1980s when a company tried to reopen the mine by helicoptering in equipment into the canyon.
Wow! And look, as we're going down towards that mining equipment, what we have. We got track, and on the track, ore carts. Multiple. Even these would be hard to get in here with mules or however you're gonna get them in. Oh man, look at that one over there, it's still on the track. Does it move on the track? That would be so freaking... It does! Yeah!
And they even flew in this 43,000-pound bulldozer in pieces and welded it together, which is just a surreal sight when you're 3 days into a hike.
Oh, the seat needs a little work, but it's also interesting to think that somebody parked right here almost 40 years ago now, and this thing never moved again. I wonder the excitement the day that this bulldozer got here. And they were like, oh wow, we're gonna get going, we're about to strike it rich. And the opposite, the feeling when it didn't work out and they had to pack this thing up and leave.
For me, this hike was a huge confidence builder. And so for my number 2 hike, the Lonesome Miners Trail, I would say sense of adventure 10, historical significance 9, beauty 8, difficulty 8, for a total score of 35. "200 feet of elevation gain to the summit, and we're almost time to reveal my favorite hike that I've ever done. But if you've been paying attention closely, you'll realize that I started with number 7, and this video has 8 hikes that I'm ranking. And that is because I need to rank Mount Whitney. I've never done this hike before, this is my first time, so I didn't want to rank it before doing it. So once we get up there, we're gonna go through my number 1, and then where Whitney falls on this list. Oh man, after all that hiking, I think we're just about there. Yes, not bad at all. Oh boy, look at that. There you have it, folks. Mount Whitney, and just over there above Owens Lake, Cerro Gordo. You know, sometimes the high point of the hike is the high point metaphorically as well, and that's got to be the case here at Whitney, because this is just absolutely stunning. But for my favorite hike ever, the high point wasn't way up in the air. It was actually deep in a thorn-filled canyon. The reason it's my favorite hike, it was the perfect combination of adventure, of beauty, of history, and just enough difficulty. And that hike is to the 1800s gold mining town of Beveridge, a town once called the most inaccessible ghost town in America. And because of that, the majority of the things are still down there at Beveridge, including a 5-stamp mill. So let's check that out and then talk about Whitney. The town is called Beveridge, and it was established around 1878 as a gold mine. And the ore there was so rich that the town grew to a few hundred full-time residents. And in total, they pulled over $15 million worth of gold out of this tucked away canyon. But by the 1910s, the town had faded. I have taken a few different approaches to get to Beveridge, but the one that I would recommend starts off at New York Butte, where you follow a faint ridgeline trail, and if you start early enough, the sunrise over Owens Valley just lights the whole world on fire.
Oh, baby. All right, and just like that, the hike to Beveridge begins. Sun's not even out yet, but it is just stunning out here right now. You can see Whitney with the first sprinkling of snow of the year. I've already seen some deer, which I never see at Cerro Gordo, and I try to remember along the way sometimes just to stop and look behind me and take it in, because while Beveridge is the destination and kind of the goal, I mean, this looks like the goal to me.
And eventually you drop into Beveridge Canyon, and before long you reach Frenchie's cabin, which is just this beautiful, peaceful, well-preserved cabin right along a stream.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, I feel like this could only be one thing. Our home for the evening. That is awesome. Yes. And there's water just flowing, ready to be drank. We made it! That wasn't bad at all. I made it here in about 5 hours from the route I took. Oh man, look. People have made up the bunks. There's even a cooler. Sign in cooler.
Note, when you hike in the town of Beveridge, watch for snakes. Bad ones after outhouse. We found them in creek bed. That's terrifying. As you get closer and closer to town, you begin to see more signs of human life. Stone cabins on cliffs, old cans and bottles. And finally, the first real landmark of Beveridge appears, the stamp mill.
So this must be it. This must be Beveridge proper. And so it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stamp mill. And so basically we'd go up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down to smash up some ore. Oh wow, look, some type of old engine or a way to potentially get stuff from the river to here. This is the boiler that would have supplied power to the stamp mill. And it's just a beautiful structure. But down in here, there's all sorts of just decrepit old buildings. And it's a lot different than Cerro Gordo. You know, one, because there's a gold mine, but two, there's water here and it's in this canyon. You know, these trees, especially this time of year, are gorgeous. So I can't imagine living here.
And as well of preserved town that Beveridge is today, it used to be a lot more so even 50 years ago, when in the 1970s, a guy chartered a helicopter out to Beveridge and took all sorts of artifacts. So much so that there was even a newspaper article about it. And if you're gonna hike to places like this, don't be that guy.
Sun's coming up here in the valley and it looks beautiful. And I was walking this way. You can see the aerial tramway right there. And this is what I read about in the logbook. This is basically an outhouse that is supported by nothing. The other thing that the guidebook said is this is where they saw a lot of snakes, was specifically by the outhouse to nowhere. So now that the sun's coming out, might mean the snakes are coming out. So I'm gonna be extra observant to make sure I don't end up with any snakes. Let's try to open this thing up. Watch it just be like Indiana Jones full of snakes.
Further down, the aerial tramway still hangs and the buckets are still on the cables, and it just feels like every piece is a story frozen in time. But all that to say, my ranking of Beveridge, my favorite crazy hike around here because of the perfect combination, is sense of adventure 8, historical significance 8, beauty 8, and difficulty 6 for a score of 30. And now let's talk about Whitney. I mean, it's hard to argue the beauty of Mount Whitney. To be able to see that, some of those lakes that we saw as we were coming through Sequoia National Park, it's just absolutely stunning. The lake's down below us. But for me, since this is my ranking and all, Mount Whitney is gonna come in at number 8. The beauty is high, but the sense of adventure is pretty low. At the end of the day, there's no need to trail find, especially in the winter. You're following behind the footsteps of many other people. You know that at the end, there isn't going to be some big discovery that nobody else has found. And so for that reason, it just doesn't do it for me. Combined, it's not a hard hike. It's just a long hike. And so for those reasons, Mount Whitney is going to come in at 8. Definitely one that you should still do. But that's where I'm ranking them. So there it is. My 8 favorite hikes in this area, and you can't really go wrong with any of them. And if I can provide any recon, any information about them, just shoot me a DM on Instagram. I'm happy to help however I can. But beyond that, I just want to say thank you. You know, it's been an absolute pleasure to be able to take these hikes over the last 5 years and be able to share them with you guys, and the support that I've gotten has just been amazing. And so thank you all so much. I hope you guys get out there and do some hiking. And until next time, I'm signing off.